Hey, what is up everyone? Danny and Alex. In this segment, we're gonna look at some submission attacks you can use in NoGi Jiu-Jitsu. Guys, in the next couple of tutorials, I'm gonna be covering some mount attacks, so check it out. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't so already, and let's get started. All right, so from the mount position, the first submission attack we're gonna look at is one of the first attacks I usually like to teach my students as submission techniques, all right? And this is called the shoulder lock, or also known as the Americana in Jiu-Jitsu. So if my opponent's arms are bent as such, this is a perfect opportunity for me to attack this submission, right? So what I wanna do is always control the arms at both extremities. So in this case, because his arm is bent at a 90, the extremity is now the elbow as well as the wrist, all right? That's where I wanna latch on with my palms. Now, notice I mentioned the palms. That means that I wanna use what we refer to as the monkey grip, meaning I have no fingers when I make contact for the submission attack. This, with a thumb grip, this is not the monkey grip. This is what I like to refer to as the hamburger grip, all right? We don't want this grip, we want the monkey grip here, so that way that I can bring the body weight and use that leverage to control the arm. Now I have 2-on-1, which makes it more powerful to control a stronger opponent. I want to immediately bring my elbow next to his head onto the mat as such. All right, now I'm going to use the bottom hand, the one who was controlling his elbow, slide it underneath his arm, make sure my bicep makes contact with his tricep. All right, and then latch on to my own wrist as such. Now I like to curl his wrist. I'll bring my forehead on top of my wrist as such. Once this is here, it's super tight. I want to make sure that he can't extend his arm. All right, so if it's not locked in properly, he's going to escape and I'll lose this attack. So I want to bring everything snug, and from here, latch on for the submission. All right, one more time. From this side here, I'm going to pin his arm onto the mat. So notice one extremity is the elbow, the other one is going to be at his wrist. When I pin it down to the mat, one of the common mistakes is people will go a little bit too far. They'll go here, all the way here, and then I have too much opening so he can push me and I lose the mount position. So I wanna stay as compact as possible, so this is gonna come as near to his head as possible, just enough so my elbow latches on. Now I like to teach this concept is look at his arm, 90 degrees, my arm is at a 90 degrees, and also my opposite arm when I slide it underneath will be at a 90 as well. Notice one more thing is I sometimes like to teach where I bring my palm up. This makes it easier to slide my arm underneath his arm. If I go palm down, sometimes the traction of my palm gets stuck onto the mat. So I just like to slide it in, palm up, and then just turn it downwards once I have my wrist control. Now, if I hold here, he'll be able to slip underneath and I'll lose this. So always make contact and keep the bicep to jam that arm so you can't lower it. Once you have everything down, you want to curl, bring your fingernails and hide them underneath his wrist. Bring your head on top of your own wrist. And now on the far side, I'll sink my hips, make a hook, and slide just like his arm was a paintbrush. All right, so we're gonna look at the second attack here. This is a basic arm lock position from the mount. Now, we refer to this as the self-defense armbar simply because this is someone who's not as, proficient in jiu-jitsu. They're not gonna hide their elbows and their arms as such. They're more gonna be extending their arms like this to either try to escape by pushing onto the chest, maybe trying to strangle from the bottom, or even attack. So this is not a smart strategy for the bottom person, but we want to practice these techniques because number one, it helps us with mechanics of getting techniques down. And number two, if we see this scenario against an untrained opponent, we know exactly how to react. So now, as I start pushing the chest, what Alex is going to do is put one palm onto the chest and the other one cross it over. He just weaves his arm over my arm that he's going to attack. And now we're going to practice just popping up on our feet, boom, and then coming back down. Once we have this motion, we can go a little bit higher and get an angle. And then lastly, we can bring it on just over the head right here. Boom. Now this is just a practice drill. This is in order to teach you to turn sideways and wrap the arm you're weaving as such. and that is the armbar. So once again, first motion, he pops up. Second, a little bit further. On the third attempt, a little bit higher. And now this is just a drill. The idea is just to help you turn sideways until you're comfortable with this, so we can get the full motion of the armbar. Now I want to talk about one detail when you finish the armbar. So Alex is going to spin for the arm, and from here, all right? So what happens is you want to make sure your foot is onto the mat, okay? You don't want to have your legs floating onto the opponent's chest or up in the air when you fall down with the armbar. A lot of times when people rock back with the arm, they bring their legs up as such, and that makes it easy for me to start escaping. So he wants to keep me pinned exactly where I am, so by keeping this leg heavy, it keeps me exactly where I am. Now you could fully extend the elbow, bring the hand to his chest, and now from here, attack the arm lock. All right, so the next submission we're gonna look at is the head and arm triangle, okay? So what I wanna do here is control my opponent by hugging the head as such. This is gonna help me use my bicep and my shoulder to apply pressure to pin him down, all right? So I wanna stay very heavy on top. Now, his arm, I need it in order to choke his neck. So I'm gonna use my arm and bring the body weight to bring the shoulder into position, all right? So what I wanna do is, I wanna make you guys understand one thing. The opponent on the bottom that's gonna be, very defensive is gonna be keeping his elbows against his body like this. Now, when I'm in this position here, he's very strong. Alex is very strong from this position, and about midpoint, this is his strongest position to defend his arm. But when it gets parallel to the shoulder, now the weakest link happens where the arm is very weak. So from here to here, I can resist, but the moment my elbow comes up, the arm becomes very weak, and I could start using my hand and crawl it into position. So as I'm positioning myself here and shoulder pressure, I'm gonna use my body to bring the elbow up and away from his body. Now I use my hand to crawl it over his face so his arm goes over the face, and the moment it gets to this position, look, my head's gonna drop down to pin and capture his tricep. Now from here, I'm gonna push the shoulder in, adjust, and now use both palms into position to sink it in. Now, I need to get into my position. So what I'm going to do is bring my knees off the mat, up, and slide my knee across until it gets to the opposite side so I can windshield wiper into position, okay? Now from here, there's two things that are gonna happen. Number one, I'm gonna lift him up so I can bring my bicep to my palm. Bicep to the palm, so don't just use the fingers, use the full palm and wrap your own bicep as such. Now, my opposite side is gonna go to his head or onto my head as such. Now I'll sprawl my hips, and from here, sink in the choke and get the submission. So once again, the head and arm triangle. Once I have control of his head, remember, don't just try to pull the elbow up. This guy's gonna be fighting with you. So use the palm, swim it in, and get some body weight into it. See, drive your chest over. Then crawl, bring the hand across the face, and then trap it with your own head. Close that door shut. Now go palm to palm first, here. Now I wanna raise up and make sure you don't step over, because if I step over, my opponent's gonna trap my leg and I'll be stuck in the half guard. So if I step here, he might catch my leg, and now it's gonna be difficult to finish this submission from the half guard position, plus let alone I might be swept. So it's important that once you step up, you bring your body across. So I wanna slide my knee here, cut, and then windshield wiper, all right? So from the side, in this position, as I come up, I'll bring my knee across the hip, slide it down, and then from here, onto the mat. I'll adjust, I'll lift him up. So from here, don't try to reach your own bicep. One of the common mistakes is people try to reach their own bicep from here and makes it very loose, So I bring him up and I bring my bicep into my palm and wrap it. From here, I hug my neck, and now from here, I'll come back and then sink in the choke. A lot of times, you might get someone who can resist this. So one more trick, from this position, sit out. right, guys, so there you have it. 3 basic submission attacks you can use in Jiu-Jitsu from the mounted position. Guys, hope you enjoyed this content. Leave us a thumbs up, and if you are new to this channel, make sure to subscribe for more tutorials just like this one. Until next time,
See you guys in the next video.
take care.